healthcare system they mentioned in the United Kingdom, where we bring in United Health from America, where the CEO makes $100 million a year. He could perhaps make $200 million a year instead if you give him the British healthcare system and turn every British citizen, British subject into somebody like Max and Stacey, who are plundered relentlessly monthly by Obamacare.
That's exactly right. The government works hand in hand with these consultancies, and the word they come up with is oligarchy, or you could call it a cartel. Mm-hmm. And it could also point out that a racket, and it's price fixing. I mean, one of the basic anti-competitive tricks that they use, and these an accounting trick, and they're accountants, so they would know best. They are engaged in price fixing. So all those big four firms, they collude, which is also illegal, and they fix prices.
They collude and they compete. I mean, obviously KPMG defrauded Ernst & Young and Deloitte in that situation where they used unfair information, insider information.
Exactly. Like Lehman Brothers was caught not playing ball with the other banks on Wall Street, so it had to be sacrificed along with Bear Stearns.
All of this story is an example of the fact that we have this revolving door. We have it in the U.S. We have it everywhere where you have Hank Paulson leaving Goldman Sachs with $200 million tax-free and joining the Treasury, and then he bails out Goldman Sachs and his other banker friends. You have it on every layer. The big four banks, the big four consultancy firms, the big four auditing firms, the big four telecom companies, the big four chip makers, the big four defense contractors, the big four, whatever they want. The big four get whatever they want. So that's something to be celebrated on the big four. But in the UK, the big four audit 99 of the FTSE 100 companies and 97% of the FTSE 350, up from 95% 5 years ago. So it's actually gone up since the financial crisis, despite EU and UK reforms ostensibly aimed at tackling a lack of competition in the sector. It's a pattern that is replicated throughout advanced economies. In the vast majority of EU member states, the combined market share of the big four audit firms for listed companies exceeds 90%, but it's in the consulting business where the real money is being made.
Right, no, anti-competitive. They hate competition. They don't want competition. That's why you form a cartel to stop all the competition and to engage in every known illegal activity to prevent competition. And it's only getting worse since the crisis because they have the cooperation of the Central Bank of England, who will manipulate interest rates, as we found out during the crisis, that they were jimmying the interest rates for their Wall Street and City of London friends. So, and no institution in the UK is not part of this racket.
Because there's a racket everywhere, and cartels and oligopolies and oligarchs everywhere. It's like you have bigger and bigger firms, and we've covered this on Keiser report since the financial crisis. The big four banks got bigger, the big four telecom companies got bigger, the big four tech companies, social media companies all got way bigger. So then, it becomes harder to introduce competition because they're so mammoth. They're just so giant with offshore vehicles and, tax laundering all around the world. So how does one control these giant corporations? And in terms of where they said the real money comes from the consulting side, and that's where that's where you see the back and forth the most, is nobody wants to do the real work of having to look through numbers and audit books. You become a consultant and you just basically plunder the state on behalf of your friends. You have like a lot of these former prime ministers and financial treasury secretaries, like the Chancellor of the Exchequer, they go on to big banks, American banks. They become consultants there for 1 day a week, £1 million a year sort of thing. The real money is definitely being made. In 2017, the big four's combined global annual revenues reached $134 billion, and the rate of their growth keeps expanding faster than the world they serve. As The Guardian reports, in their oldest markets, the UK and the US, these big four accounting firms are growing at more than twice the rate of those countries' economies. By 2016, across 150 countries, the Big Four employed 890,000 people, which was more than the 5 most valuable companies in the world combined. So they're growing twice as fast as the underlying economy, which means somebody's losing because they're gaining.
This is a form of leprosy. It's KPMG and the other three the Big Four are and they have a colony in the City of London and in the UK, and they're infecting the entire economy. And it's causing deformations, huge
Well, there's some sort of
problems.
parasite for sure, because that's a parasitic behavior where you're growing faster than the underlying economy that you're supposedly serving. They're supposed to serve the economy. They're supposed to serve transparency within that economy. And this, by the way, this big four, these people are these consultants, these revolving door between all these big four of all the industries of the world and the central banks and the halls of power. They're the same people that are like shocked about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and they're the ones that plead ignorance about why this has erupted, why people are adopting this, why people want to reject their big four system.
That's why they love the whole idea of Brexit, is because it created huge billions of pounds worth of more consulting fees for the big four. And they did outright lies, like the NHS would benefit all this money. That was constructed by an accounting firm, by one of the
consultants.
Yeah, they came out and the consultant, they said, you're going to save all this NHS money. And now they've made huge money. The average British person is getting impoverished, and it's becoming more dangerous to go there.
And they actually rebranded the cost to the NHS. They just rebranded that something like the Brexit benefit or something like that. They said they've benefited from it, but that they must now raise taxes.
Why does every great dystopian novel occur in England? It's because of these four galloping horses of the accounting apocalypse. Well, we must go to a break, but we'll be back. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max.